Hi, people. Thank you for stopping by at Building Wealth with Rajiv. One of my mission is to help you and myself become better investors every day. On that point, it might just be good to hear Neil Bahal. Neil Bahal is the founder of top performing portfolio management service in India. 193% in 1 year. That's huge. Although our chat is India centric, the strategies are pretty broad and they can be applicable in any market in the world. I hope you find the chat useful. If you find it useful, please share it with your friends. Also, follow the channel and do share your comments.
So while the market has been good, I won't deny that the market has given great tailwinds. I think the strategy is very unique. The strategy of special situations plus technology is not being followed by anybody else. And it's throwing up a lot of good ideas, which are largely ignored by the market. So the strategy of special situations plus technology is something that I put it down to. That's the reason why we are doing good. Because, excuse me, at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, what is proper investing? And if we have to give an answer for what is proper investing means to buy the highest quality company available at the cheapest possible price. Proper investing doesn't mean buying high quality company at any price. Or proper investing doesn't mean buying only cheap companies, average companies which are cheap. They are cheap for a reason. So we went to the drawing board and we thought about it in a different way. And we thought, why not we figure out a system or a technique where we end up getting high quality companies, but at a reasonable price or a cheap price. And we landed up on special situations, and where a big conglomerate gets split up, or when a new promoter comes and takes over a not so good company, the kind of turnaround, the kind of excellence that comes into the company, that's a great way of looking at investing. And then we thought that, okay, fine, if you're going to invest in expensive companies in technology space, then at least invest in companies who are going to grow at 40%, 30% for the next 8 to 10 years. So if you're investing in expensive companies, invest in high growth, super high growth companies, and that is only available in technology, or else buy high quality at a cheap price. So this strategy, I think, was the key for the performance. And since we're the only ones doing it, that's why the reason the difference in performance is so high.
So I think this is really interesting. Let's split it. Let's talk about the first part, the highest quality company at cheap price. Now, obviously, price is, it's a very highly debated topic, right? How to calculate price, and I have my views on that as well. But that's a different thing. So talk about that part. Give a couple of examples, Neil, specific. What came to your mind, and how did you start on that? That's really interesting stuff.
So I'll tell you something that we did in the past, or better than that, I'll tell you something that is happening currently.
Yes, sure.
So there is a company called GMR Infra. Now, I'll just give a disclaimer before we progress on this interview. Whatever I say today is only for educational purposes, and I may or may not have positions already, and these are not by advice whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's just education. Yeah.
So there's a company called GMR Infra, and GMR currently is in a not so great corporate structure. It has lots of things which are undesirable for investors like me. So I don't want exposure to infrastructure, highways, those kind of things. But they have a very good crown jewel asset, which is the airport business. Now this airport business, they own the Delhi airport, they own the Hyderabad airport, they own the Goa airport. So there's a lot of growth that is going to come. They control almost a quarter of all of India's airlines passengers. So this kind of opportunities, if you want to buy in the normal market, if GMR Airport or any other good airport business were to do an IPO and come, it would come at a phenomenal valuation. And then you would have to buy at a very high valuation. But today, since this business, this airport business is hidden behind the not so great corporate structuring at the company, this business is available for a very good price. It's not available at the throwaway price right now, since the market is up. But it's still available at a very fair price, because the quality of business is very high. It's almost like nobody can disrupt this business, and India being a growth kind of economy, the income will keep growing without volatility for a number of years. And markets love these kind of companies where they have a sense of understanding that for the 8-10 years in the future, the airport business will keep growing. So the valuation, whatever price it will list, I would expect the valuation would keep rising over time. Earnings will rise without volatility, but the valuation will keep increasing because at the end of the day, we want to buy earnings growth, and we want to have surety of earnings growth. And when a business like this, when it's a monopolistic in nature, tomorrow some big industrialist cannot come and set up an airport next to GMR and undercut it. There is no way. So the cash flows are protected. It's a very nice, stable business. And since they are doing so much of capex, the Hyderabad airport is growing, the Delhi airport is growing, Goa is growing. So there's a lot of growth also coming. So these are the kind of opportunities that keep coming regularly in the special situation space. And there's not only one, there are multiple opportunities where there are, it's sky's the limit in terms of opportunities. But the best part is that no other fund is looking into this because of many hurdles that they face in terms of regulations and stuff like that. So it's a kind of like a good space for us to look out for.
And this company is, you're saying, is it being up for acquisition or?
So GMR Infra is doing a demerger. So they are going to split the airport business and they are going to split the infrastructure business away. So now investor like me who wants to invest only in super high quality company will look at the airport business and say, yes, the GMR airport business is one of the highest quality businesses there is. So I would love to pay the valuation that is trading at currently, but once it lists on its own as a standalone entity without any kind of association with the infrastructure business. So,
but tell me one thing, and what will be your, what kind of valuation are you talking about? What makes you comfortable?
So I think currently at the current price, the airport business trades at around 20 times EBITDA, 17 to 20 times EBITDA, while something like a Sydney airport trades at a much higher price. So you have to compare this with peer group. And not only that, Sydney airport is just one airport and it trades at a higher valuation. GMR has 3 airports. And India is a developing economy. So not only will we see a growth in earnings, we should also end up seeing a growth in valuations. But of course, this is my view and I could definitely be wrong.
But why are you comparing it to Sydney airport? Why not to KL airport? I'm just
it's just a example. We can compare it with a basket of all airports and figure out what is the mean valuation we should arrive at. But the idea is that over a long period of time, in a space like India, the valuation will be much higher than any other smaller countries.
Okay.
You see any business which is a high growth business or a new type of business, it always traded at a higher valuation in India. You see Zomato, it's now at a significantly higher valuation than DoorDash in America, for example. People were kind of benchmarking against DoorDash, but it listed and it nearly doubled. So now
I was surprised at that. I looked at it. I was quite surprised actually.
No, we were also very bullish on Zomato. We applied in the IPO, and even we were surprised with the price movement. But this has happened across time periods in India. High quality businesses in India trade at very good valuations. So the whole trick is, or the whole game is, to get hold of these high quality businesses at a cheap price or a reasonable price or a fair price. So if I'm getting a GMR at a fair price, the airport business, then I want to hold it for the next 10 years. Because the idea is that not only will earnings grow, it will start benchmarking against global players and probably trade at a higher valuation.
And what do you target? Like if you want to hold it for 10 years, you're looking for, you start with an hypothesis of, okay, it should be 5x in 10 years, it should be 7x in 10 years or 10x in 10 years.
So we don't own GMR right now. I was just giving an example.
Yeah, no, yeah, sure.
But if I would like to buy a business, I would ideally like the business to have a chance to do a 10x in 10 years, which should be like 26 of CAGR.
Yeah.
If that happens, then it makes it really your worthwhile and it takes you to a different place altogether. If you can compound your money for long periods of time, that's the game, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
but in order to play this the right way, you need companies whose earnings will grow without volatility. Every year, the company should post a growth in earnings. Now,
And
COVID
that,
is a special. COVID is a situation which doesn't count in my book. But without COVID, the airport business in India would keep growing, and I expect the next 8 to 10 years, the airport business.
tell me one thing, Neil. Your performance till date, if it's not confidential, which are 2 or 3 top companies, which are the top performers so far?
So all of them would be from special situations.
Okay.
The big winner that we had, our biggest winner was a company called Green Panel,
Okay.
which yesterday it became nearly 11 bagger for us.
Wow.
So our biggest position ends up going, becoming 11x. So obviously that will have a good impact on the fund. So Green Panel was a similar kind of situation where it demerged out of the parent company, which was Green Ply. Green Ply was India's largest plywood company, but there was a catch. Whoever was buying Green Ply was buying Green Ply for the plywood business. They had probably no interest in the startup kind of subsidiary that they had, which was into MDF. Green Panel was into MDF, and then the company decided to split the two businesses. They did a demerger, and where the plywood was a much more stable business. It has good amount of less amount of debt in it, while this MDF was a kind of a joker in the pack. No one knew what is going to happen there. There was no history to go on. It was just at the start of the cycle for MDF in India. So when the one share of MDF came in the existing investors' lap, they thought of one thing. I have worked very hard. I've told my investment committee that Green Ply because of plywood. Now that I get MDF, I cannot sell this to the investment committee, or this is a micro cap, and since I'm a mid cap or a small cap fund, I cannot own a micro cap. So there were multiple reasons, multiple factors for all these investors to sell this company. As soon as they got Green Panel in their hand, every single fund, the mutual funds, started selling. And when these big funds who have 5%, 8% in the company start selling their shares in a micro cap, the price ends up going well below its actual fair value. So at the bottom, where it hit a price of 27 odd rupees, it listed at 61, and it fell from 61 to 27 in a very short period because all the funds were exiting. At 27 rupees, I think the market cap was some 350 crores for Green Panel. But at the same time, they had just finished setting up a plant where they invested more than 1,000 crores.
So there is a huge mismatch.
Huge mismatch. Of course, there was a lot of debt also. But even if you add the debt, it was still available at a significant discount to its actual fair value. This is
Very
actual
smart.
fair value. So then we realized that these funds they are selling is coming to an end. We kept tracking them. We realized the selling is coming to an end, and we thought this is the right time. You're getting to buy this business for practically free. This is the right time to make a position in this. And as soon as the selling ended, the price went from 27 to about 60 rupees within days. And today it is, I think it hit an all-time high on Friday, nearing 290 odd rupees. So this is the kind of impact special situations can bring to your portfolio. Now, Green Panel is not some average Joe company. It is India's largest MDF player. And the MDF sector in itself is growing at 15 to 18% per year.
So what is MDF?
It's a substitute for plywood, basically.
Okay.
It's used in making furniture, and most of the office furniture or the millennials, they prefer using ready-made furniture. So they prefer the MDF goes in all these kind of furniture. So there are so many opportunities like this, and the biggest company, one of the best well-known companies in the world today, if you talk about Berkshire Hathaway, Mr. Buffett's company, that was in 1964 a special situation. Warren Buffett never started Berkshire Hathaway. He bought it. So management change or promoter change.
It was some textile, no? It was some textile company.
It was in textiles. He thought I will turn around this textile company and I'll end up doing good. Eventually he failed. He was not able to turn around the textile business, but he ended up doing many other things. So when an exceptional promoter comes and takes over an average company from an average promoter, big things can happen. And maybe one or two may fail, but if you make a basket of such opportunities, and in the basket, if you fill them up with high quality things like this GMR business, there are so many more examples. The Max Healthcare, Max Hospitals, India's second largest hospital business. But when the demerger happened, not a single person wanted to touch it. KKR did the deal at 82 rupees per share, and the price fell to something in the region of 48 rupees per share. That made no sense. So we made it our second biggest position. And today, from 48 per share, Max Healthcare trades at 380 or 390 rupees. So look at the kind of jump and look at the kind of wealth creation. Nobody wants these companies before the demerger because there are lots of baggage. The baggage are there are lots of things in different forms and shapes. But as they trade as a standalone entity without the baggage of the previous conglomerate or with a new promoter, for example, in Max Healthcare, new promoters came. It was backed by KKR. And then the corporate governance multiple increases. And then, sure enough, the actual performance also increases with better promoters. So the earlier margin were 8-10%. Now the margins have crossed 20%.
Wow, this is fascinating. And how do we find these companies, Neil? Is it
the brilliant part about this? As I said earlier, no one focuses on this. It's a very well-renowned thing. I mean, special situations are not invented by me. There are lots of literature on it globally, but for one reason or the other, funds don't participate, and a lot of investors don't participate. And if you go on Google and try to find information on the Max deal when it happened, or the Tejas network deal with Tata's taking over Tejas network, or the Poonawala's taking over Magma FinCorp, you will find no actual information. Nobody's covering these companies at all. And these kind of special situations are being covered by no one. So they bring added advantage for an investor who has his eyes open. So we are only doing this and tech. So we are aware of every single special situation that is being, announced in India. So we have like a calendar system where we just mark it down that this is expected to happen at this time. So we made a roadmap for the next 2 years. We know every single thing that is going on. Our entire PMS is a research focused PMS, and we just do two things. It's like, I just know how to do a square cut and a sweep. I don't do any other shots. So then I become an expert in those two. Yeah. It's my circle of competence. So that's why once you do only those two things, and when you don't see anything else, you become, then you know everything that is happening there. So that's how we track it.
That's so awesome. Now, these are good stories. This is fantastic. Anything which has gone wrong, with the special situation, something you want to talk about, and what's the learning there?
Since the time I started investing in special situation, you will not believe, I've had not a single company where we lost money. The one company where it got delayed, the whole situation got delayed, and we didn't end up making any money was CESC, where there was some regulatory issues where the demerger got delayed by a long period. So the demerged entities did not trade at a valuation which I expected them to, but then again, we did not lose money. This happened in the 2018-19 period, where the mid cap, small caps were falling dramatically, and where we had this demerger, which actually failed in a sense, but still we didn't end up losing any money. But there are other demergers which we did not play. For example, I'll not to give names, but there are 2 or 3 very famous demergers of good companies which actually failed, and the company defaulted and the price went to zero. So it's not that every single demerger will make you money. You have to pick only the high quality ones. And if you pick the high quality ones who have some kind of market leadership and some kind of business advantage, there you're going to expect it to do well if you make a basket approach. And you should know very well that 1 or 2 may fail.
And then what is you layer it down by market cap, micro cap, large cap, mid cap? How do you play the game?
We are a very flexible PMS. We don't have any restrictions. Our investors are already told that we are a multi-cap approach. So we we invest across the board. Predominantly, most of these opportunities which are not being tracked by the market are in the mid cap or the small cap space. So as of right now, most of our book is in the mid caps or the small cap space.
Okay. All right.
The large caps are in the form of technology companies.
So technology. So what's the technology picks? What's your favorite?
So I'm in love with music streaming as a business. I think personally, I have not seen anything better than music streaming as a business proposition. There is just no chance of competition coming at you because you already own the music. Nobody else can play that music. And the internet, which is the underlying platform on which this music streaming, like Spotify or Ghana, Savan or YouTube, these platforms are growing exponentially. So the music streaming guys are enjoying best of all worlds right now. They own all these classic hits, which keep getting played again and again. For the consumer like me, I go on YouTube, I just play a song. It's free for me. I don't have to pay anything. The advertisers are paying YouTube, and YouTube gives half the money to Tips or Saregama, and it keeps half the money for itself. It's just a beautiful win-win situation. And so music streaming in tech is a big play. Something like cyber security. So in India, there are right now not many listed companies who have great products, but many are coming. So cyber security, you won't believe 90,000 websites get hacked daily across the world. So there's a big opportunity in cyber security also. There's a big opportunity in 5G. 5G is going to be the biggest kind of, rollout in telecom history, in any tech history. So there are huge opportunities all across the board where technology will play a pivotal role. So investors today have a choice to make, whether they want to remain relevant or if they don't want to be relevant. So if you don't want to be relevant, you can go ahead and buy your paper stocks or steel stocks and be the same old. But if you want to have companies which are onto something big, onto something special, you have to focus on so many different aspects of the technology jungle. There are many different things going on, and there are so many spaces where I can tell, I know it, that the next 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, it will be pure single side growth. So we have to make a basket again.
Yeah, no, I get it. So in music, which ones are you looking at?
We already own Tips Industries and Saregama. They are the two big listed ones. There are Z Music is also one, and T Series is another one. They are not yet listed. I wish they were listed standalone on a standalone basis, but as of right now, we own Tips and we own Saregama. We're very happy with these two companies.
And what Tips, Saregama, what kind of growth are they showing?
They are expected, the guidance is that they're expected to grow at a 25% CAGR for the next number of years. And this is without even getting new content. It's just that YouTube alone is growing at 80% a year. Last quarter grew 80%. Spotify grew more than 100%. So when the underlying platform is expanding so fast, these guys are growing without even new content. They are on basically with the tailwind. They are going with the tide. But now what these guys are doing is they're not spending big money on content. Getting new content is not easy. It's difficult. So they are doing remixes. They are doing regional content, and they are able to secure 5 million, 10 million kind of views without spending money. And I have been tracking the growth of, for example, I've been tracking the growth of the YouTube channel of Tips Industries. It's growing at a annual run rate of 27%. So if the YouTube channel subscribers of Tips is growing at 27% every year, obviously most of it or some of it will translate into earnings. So I'm quite confident that, so it's interesting that both the companies, Saregama and Tips, are given the same guidance, about 25% growth. And from what I see, the kind of growth in the underlying platforms and the actual subscriber number that I can visually see, I'm also quite comfortable and confident that these companies also will grow at 25% and the guidance will be met.
Are these companies relevant among millennials or the new generation, Tips and?
They're very relevant because all these songs are all these companies are leveraging on the older library, and they are remixing these songs with new generation actors, and it's very very relevant because these kids are listening to music whole day. Now I'm sure not all of it is on Saregama and Tips, but some are here, some are there, so everybody is getting a share of the pie. Like today, India is the one of the biggest consumers of music. We are consuming more music than anybody else in the world in terms of streaming.
And cyber security, what plays are there?
So in India, I don't have any play in India right now in cyber security. There are a couple of interesting IPOs which should come, but right now there are a couple of listed companies, but for some reason or the other, I don't have too much conviction on those. I'm waiting for some of these IPOs to come.
And other technology plays which you are Neil looking at, which are good ones, which is
there is a company. There are a set of very special companies. Some of them are the likes of Zerodha, the likes of Nykaa, the likes of Razorpay, the likes of PhonePe. There are about 15 odd companies who are really special companies who will come and do IPO over the next maybe 1 to 3 years. There are new generation IT companies in India who are unlisted. They're all going to get listed very soon. And you're going to have, I'm convinced about it, you're going to have in the next 10 years a proper tech index in India, just how you have in America now with NASDAQ. You're also going to have the same thing in India. And the people who are sitting today, and almost most of the big people that I see on TV, they just shun the idea of technology. They don't believe in it because of expensive valuation. What we need to see is that if the earnings grow exponentially, what is expensive today will be cheap in 3 years. So what you sacrifice is 1 or 2 years, and then you get your basket. You should not bet on only one company. Your basket will end up getting structural growth for the next maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So if you land up on a Google in 2004, everybody said the same thing about Google. Everybody said the same thing about Shopify. Everybody said the same thing about Netflix. Too expensive. What will happen? I don't know. Too expensive. So I'll rather buy a US steel. I mean, the time right now is to focus on these companies if you want to stay relevant in life.
So you talked about technology. You talked about within technology, music. You talked about cybersecurity. Which was the third one, Neil?
5G.
5G. And what's happening on that? I mean, are the players?
So there is one player. We think 5G is too big an opportunity for somebody to ignore today. In India, there is one simple play in 5G. Is a company called Tejas Networks.
Okay.
Tejas Networks got acquired recently by the Tata Group.
Okay.
So the Tata Group is one of the most business savvy groups there is in India.
As more popular.
Yeah. So if these guys are thinking that the 5G opportunity is big, then who am I to think otherwise? So Tejas Network, the minute I heard that these guys are taking over Tejas Networks, so we thought we should also own this as part of our PMS. It went in a part of our special situation basket. We don't like to bet only on one company. So if we have a basket approach, we have safety in numbers, for example, with a view that the numbers will get us through the averages. So 5G as an opportunity, I completely believe in also that it's going to be a big rollout. Whether we believe in it or not, it's going to become a big thing. So Tejas Network gave a good opportunity for us to actually back a very good business house who know what they are doing, who have the muscles, who have the brains to kind of run it the right way. So that is one. Then IT companies in India also a great opportunity today. If everybody is focusing on getting their business upgraded on the tech side, these IT companies are going to do a big job. They are going to see. So IT companies used to be defensive. Used to say, I'll buy IT to get some stability in my portfolio. They have gone from defensive to growth. Now you say you want to have growth, you own IT company. They're all coming and openly saying that, we have more business than people. The attrition rates have shot through the roof because there is so much demand, so much new projects. So these companies will end up growing 25% maybe for the next 5-6 years.
Are you looking at specific you have any
Yeah,
basket?
we have quite a big basket in IT. We own Intellect Design, we own Mastech, we owned Happiest Minds when the IPO happened. Then we had KPIT. We keep IT is a big part of our portfolio, so
And
we keep.
what's your portfolio allocation like? Each bet is about 3%, 4%, 5%. How do you manage that?
On average, we are about 4% to 5% per investment, because we want to keep it reasonably well spread. So 3%, 4%, 5% is something that I like to keep a starting position at, unless I come across something exceptional. And when I come across something exceptional, I take it as high as 10%. We never go anything about 10% to begin with.
Okay. All right. I reached out to some of my friends in India and I said, I'm talking to you, and a couple of them are aware of you. So I think some of them sent me the questions. I'll read out. Maybe you can.
Sure. I hope they're good questions.
No, the questions is that one of my friends thinks that, it's about extreme euphoria in the markets. And it seems like in his view, there's lofty valuations in India right now. You have a view on that?
We cannot argue against that. He has a point. It's not only in India, it's happening everywhere. When you have in Europe right now, just happened last week, the junk bond yield has gone in negative territory. So there is so much money, there's so much excess liquidity, thanks to the central banks going nuts around the world, that there is no other option for stock valuations to keep going higher. Not only that, thanks to the COVID-led disruptions, especially in India, a lot of the business is going from unorganized segment to the organized segment. The listed space is largely the organized segment. So the earnings of these companies also actually going up. So we have cheap liquidity, we have great earnings. So it's like a Goldilocks combination. We have zero interest rates. Not only that, we are seeing wealth effect in the economy. Whenever in history, you have to go in, if you have to do good in market, you need to know history. You have to go back in history and see whenever there has been a big war or a big kind of pandemic, is always resulted into a wealth effect in the economy. What happens is that the labor becomes expensive. We are seeing that in IT, we are seeing that in engineering, we are seeing that in normal labor who are building real estate, for example. You're not getting them at the same price that you were getting in the pre-pandemic level. You have to pay more to get good labor or good employees in today's world, skilled people. So there's a wealth effect. The money is gone from the hands of the few into the hands of the many. And now you have this social media revolution, where now there is no limitations. You want to earn more money, you can do your job. In the night, you can have your YouTube channel and make some money. So many people are now become business owners. They have become influencers. There are so many things. People are now not limited anymore. This is an age we are entering, is a phenomenal age. It's an age of no limitations.
Abundance.
Limitation now is only in the mind. So there's more money in the system. There's zero interest rates. Earnings are going up. It's a best situation that an investor can hope for. And in this situation, stocks will be expensive. You're not going to get 5p, 10p, these kind of situations for a long period of time, in my opinion. I could be wrong. But if you own high quality businesses today, which are going through growth via special situations, you are still getting them at reasonably fair valuations. But so that is our proposition.
Yeah, no, sure. And I think I keep hearing a lot of this in US also, where I invest a lot of majority of my portfolio because it's easier for me from Singapore. But is there a do you fear any inflation crashes coming in or something like that? Does a crash look imminent to you?
Not at all. I feel this is quite a strong period for equities, and we need to, remove fears from the mind. And I'll tell you one thing: if you own a bunch of very good businesses, and let's say forget valuations also, like let's say that you want to own only high quality businesses. Let's say you own Colgate, Dabur, DMart, and a bunch of these kind of businesses, and the markets crashed. Okay, next thing you know, markets have crashed. These kind of businesses, if you are an investor in these kind of businesses, basically high quality stuff, you're going to say, thank God the market's crashed. Now I can do some more SIP. You don't have to worry about the market crash, because markets crash cannot be predicted and the opportunity cost is just too high. In a time like today where interest rates are zero, if you're going to wait for a market crash, Zomato will list at 75 and become 150, it may even go to 300. You'll still be waiting. How much will a person wait? So in my opinion, own good businesses. If they go up, good. If they go down, say thank you and buy more.
Yeah, I think the expected rate of return in India should be higher, right? The inflation, the I think the inflation is about 8-9%, 10% compared to other. So I think you got to work harder there, isn't it?
Inflation numbers in India, I don't know what are the real inflation numbers in India. On paper, we see that inflation is under control, but here and there things keep getting expensive. Not only in India, I think it's happening even in America. People say there is inflation is zero, but everything is expensive every year. So it's a global thing. Inflation is a real threat. So if you remain in cash, or if you go and put money in FD for 2%, 3% kind of return, you are losing out, because markets will go down. I don't see markets will crash. How often will a subprime crisis happen, or how often will COVID, type of thing happen once out of the blue? You cannot keep expecting, like there was a COVID crash in last year. How can a crash happen again? I mean, there has to be something dramatic has to happen for a crash to happen. Maybe market will go down 10-15%. So be it. 10-15% is nothing.
Yeah. You have any view on the other pharma, chemicals? I know you don't cover those.
So I do believe chemical is a good situation right now because of the China plus one situation. A lot of these chemical companies are having a really, really good period. So thankfully, as of right now, we got to participate in a lot of them via special situations. Like we did the Sequent demerger, where Carlyle came and took over the company, and the valuation, the earnings went up and the valuation also went up. Like how I spoke earlier, you get two things: earnings go up and valuation also goes up. Then we did Aarti Surfactants. Out of Aarti Industries, a very tiny, small spec got out, and the big investors had no interest in this micro cap 300-400 crore company. So everybody sold again. So the thing got listed at 440, fell 50% to 220. And from 220, when the selling got over, the promoter themselves tried to buy shares. And the stock went from 220 to 1800 rupees within 6 to 7 months. There is some strong things are happening. So we were lucky that we were able to see these things. We saw the Max deal and many more in chemical. Jubilant Ingrevia was one. Make Money Fine Chem happened right now. So many things happening in chemical in terms of special situations. So we got lucky in that sense that we got exposure.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Now, tell me one thing. I think a couple of more questions. I think we're through. Somebody in 20s comes to you, and says that, Neil, what should I do? Where should I invest? What would you say?
Get a side income and just aggressively invest in the market and have a good exposure to market and create a kind of a SIP power, increase your SIP power, because being a good investor is not everything. Anybody can identify a good company, but what is the beauty of Warren Buffett? Why is he so amazing? Because he has money all the time when other people never have money. So become and create non-market kind of income. So have your job, right? In the night, do some online class on Udemy, or do some online videos on YouTube, earn some money. So all that money keep pumping into your portfolio. Basically, outwork everybody, outthink everybody, and be fearless. That's my advice to.
And where should they invest? What kind of companies? Would you say technology or whatever they're comfortable with?
I mean, if you are not a full-time guy, it's so easy to make money. Just buy a bunch of ETFs. It'll not set your world on fire. It'll not give you multi-bagger returns, but you'll not lose money and you'll make good money every year. So the NASDAQ ETF is there. There you have a FANG ETF. You have the banking ETF. You have the Nifty ETF. Make a basket of all these ETFs, include even the gold ETF. Of course, this is just my thoughts. This is not actual advice. This is a hypothetical answer. If you make a basket of good ETFs and say every time these ETFs fall 5% from any peak, they fall 5%, I'll do some SIP. They keep following, I keep doing SIP. In this way, you don't have to go and track individual companies. You are owning many companies. You are in the safety of numbers. So young investors, you do ETFs. If you don't want to do ETFs, then put money in a good small case, put money in a good mutual fund, or do it yourself. But if you're doing it yourself, don't get into trading. Don't get into speculation, futures and options, derivatives. It is not worth it. You will make far more money investing than what you will do with much lesser stress in investing.
Okay, now last question. I have 20 lakh rupees, Neil, and I want to buy 5 stocks.
I know where this is getting at.
What do you want me to? What do you think I should buy? 5 stocks I want to own with the potential. I want to leave them for 5 to 10 years.
Buy a bunch of ETFs, which are tech ETFs. Buy a bunch of these new age ETFs. Maybe even buy a crypto ETF. Have a high growth ETF basket and do SIP in it over a long period of time. You will do good.
Okay. Did you not have particular stocks to tell me?
Saying stocks is a little bit too risky. ETFs is also risky, but I said a crypto ETF, right? So that is risky in itself. But ETFs will give you that sense of stability where you don't have to go and see what is happening in that particular company. When you have to give stock advice, it's very difficult because in today's day and time, I'm myself saying that I live in the safety of numbers. So I cannot tell you 5 stocks when I'm investing in 30, 40 stocks myself. Go for ETFs. You'll always be safe because the first rule of having a good CAGR is not to have significant down moves or a drawdown in your portfolio. Portfolio must keep growing. And so ETFs will give you that, you're in safety of numbers. You'll have hundreds of companies, and then even if 1 or 2 don't perform, doesn't matter to you. On the whole, you will do good.
I think it's a great advice, actually, Neil. Because ETFs have been performing so well. I mean, for example, some of the new coming ETFs, 5G ETFs I've seen in US, the annualized 30-35%, that's like unheard.
Exactly. The NASDAQ itself, you see the NASDAQ CAGR.
It's about 18-19%, right? I mean,
you have to do nothing for the last 12 years. You have to do nothing. Just invest in the NASDAQ index and just retire. So that's the whole idea. And invest in the bunch of ETFs, and if they fall, keep buying. Keep doing regular SIP and you should be fine.
Thank you, Neil. We'll chat again and appreciate you giving time.
Thank you for having me over. It was a great pleasure. We'll do it again.
Thanks, Neil. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.